Okay, today is a new chapter. We are just starting chapter 5, and today is about points and slopes, and that brings me to point slope. Well, point slope is an equation that goes y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. And you know the formula for slope too, right? Separately has to do with like some y's and some x's. Who can tell me that equation for slope? How do you get slope again? I know you know how to get a slope between 2 points, but do you remember the equation for it? Yes, sir. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, excellent. I'd like you to just think about this equation right here. What if I were to solve it for m? What would I do to get the m alone? What should I do? Divide both sides by x minus x sub 1. Then this would cancel this, and the slope's alone, and isn't this strikingly similar to that? In fact, it's the exact same thing. It's just one of them uses x's and y's, and one of them uses y2s and y1s, okay? So I don't know if you ever knew that this is just the slope formula stretched out. Think of it this way. If I put the m right here, do you get if you multiply both sides of that formula by x2 minus x1, you get the original formula right here? If I just multiply this original, by x2 minus x1 on both sides, and there's an m over here, I get this. All right, so they are intricately related. Next thing, what's harder? I give you a point, 1,7, and a slope, or I say, if the slope is negative 4, I was a little messy there, or if I instead say, here's 2 points, find me the line that goes through them. Which one's going to be easier to find the equation for? That way, right? Because if I give you 2 points, 1,7 and 9, negative 10, the first thing I'd have to do is figure out the slope, right? So today's problems are almost all like that. Not going to be that easy. Well, there's just some easy days, and this is one of them. So, and it's a perfect day to do the tennis ball thing on because that was going to take 20 minutes. So we've got a point and a slope, and it's just use point slope. Can it be a little more complicated? Yes. I was just looking over the weekend at ACT questions again because I'm trying to develop a really good next 20. You know, the one after the top 20 that you've been doing. And I got 20 more questions, and I've taken them right off the list of things the ACT company says can be on the ACT. One of them is, given a slope and a point, write an equation that's either parallel or perpendicular to the given equation. Do you remember if I had this point and this slope, how would I do an equation perpendicular to this? One person knows already. 2 people know. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people know. Okay. Yes. So what's my new slope going to be? A little louder.
1/4.
Yes. And why is it positive 1/4? Yes. And you have to make them opposite of what they were. Think of it this way. If my original line is like this, my other line needs to be going the opposite direction to be perpendicular to it. So if one's rising, the other has to be falling. That's why one of them's positive, the other one's negative, or vice versa. Okay. So if my new slope of my line is now figured out, now don't I just have a point and a slope again, and I can just use the same thing we did before, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1? Yes, we can. So if you're already good at that top 20 skill, then life is easy today. Now, some of you still haven't got your top 20 mastered. Maybe this will help you to master this one topic, to go into it in depth like this. So now I'd like you to take out your iPad, and I'll show you where the homework is. And I'll show you which problems of the homework that I would like you to do for today. Given that our time has been shortened quite a bit by doing that lab at the beginning of the hour, here are the ones that I actually want you to do in your homework. I'll pause for a second while I get ready. So here's the file, lesson 5.1, lines and slope. Okay, you'll find this in the new Chapter 5 folder. Once you're in there, you're looking for not the one that says assignment. You're looking for the one that says lines and slopes. Okay? The only thing that they're doing here that's a little more complicated than what I was talking about was sometimes they give you a point which has square roots in it. It's okay. It's just a pain in the butt to graph. It's just the same as saying like 1.3 comma, I don't know what this one comes out to, like 4.7, whatever that answer would be. They're just a funny way to write a decimal. It's written with a square root. That makes it rational or irrational? Rationals can be written as a fraction. Something like the square root of 3, can you write that as a fraction? This is an irrational number. That's another important thing for the ACT. They're irrational when they don't come out nice. What about the square root of 25? That one's rational. That one comes out to a number you can write as a fraction. This one is a decimal that would repeat forever, or sorry, not repeat forever. It would go forever and never repeat. So that's an irrational number. So they're just throwing in a couple of irrational numbers, but in the end, it doesn't really change what you're doing. You stick those in as your point. This is your x, this is your y. Don't worry about those. Okay, so I will show you the ones that I wish for you to do. I'm actually having you do number 1 and number 9. Then we scroll on to this next section, and in here we're doing number 13, just number 13. And the only difference here, would you please underline in the directions, slope-intercept form. Do you have to start with slope-intercept? No. You can start with that other form of the equation, which is called point-slope. And then you just have to get it into slope-intercept. They're both written on the side here. This one's slope-intercept, this one's point-slope. Okay, so just follow the directions. Make sure when you're done, you've put it in slope-intercept. All right, moving on to number 21. On number 21, you graph it. That should be easy peasy. Find the slope, find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Sometimes, weird ones will have no x-intercept if their graphs look like this. And they might have no y-intercept if they look like this. But usually graphs go like this and they touch both, and then you've got an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Isn't there an easy algebraic way to find the x-intercept? The x-intercept is where? Y equals 0. And the y-intercept is where? X equals 0. So you could solve these very simply by just going over here and doing it algebraically. But you're going to have to graph it anyway, so it might not be that hard to just see where it touches. Okay. So that's 21. I feel like you had enough practice of that in the past to not need too many of those. So we're skipping all the way to 26. 26 is a good one because it forces you to have to think about how do I rearrange this puppy so that it looks like f of x is like y, of course. Y equals like this. This is not the right answer, but let's say it simplifies down to something like that. It's going to force you to do a little algebraic manipulation on it and see if you can figure out what the slope is, etc. I'm not telling you how to do it. You're in an honors class. You can figure that out. Stretch you a little bit. Good for you. All right, on to number 32. I feel like number 32 would be a good one to stretch you on a word problem type question. And given that we have a shortened time today based on that big lab thing and getting your test back, I think that's enough for today. So, as long as you're up with your top 20 skills, today is an easy one. At least I hope you feel like that. And it is also something that is directly listed in the ACTs as things you should be ready for on the ACT test. So, all right, that's all I have for you for today.